There's something really interesting about the idea of being stranded on a deserted island, and that is going to be the theme of the game we're talking about today, Dieson Crusoe. Now, as the name implies, it is a little bit of a take on the Robinson Crusoe idea, which is a classic 1600s novel that kind of founded this modern idea of being stuck on an island alone and having to survive. I actually read the novel in anticipation of playing this game, and outside of name, it has absolutely nothing to do with the novel. There is no Friday, there are no mysterious footprints. It is pretty much independent of the novel. Now, the other half of Dieson Crusoe's name is the DIE part, the die. And I'm not talking about what you're going to do a lot in this game because it is rather difficult. I am talking about these little six-sided friends that are going to drive the actions that we're going to be taken in this game. You see, in Dieson Crusoe, you're going to start by choosing a different quest. Now, there are 7 different quests in the game, and they can range from something as simple as hunting a deer and making some rope, to taming a dog, to exploring the island, to eventually trying to build a raft and escaping. This isn't a campaign in any sense, and you could just choose any of these quests in any order, but generally they kind of build on each other in terms of complexity and the very loose story where you're this Dieson Crusoe person starting off simply hunting deer and then eventually escalating, doing more and more things on the island. So while they are independent, they do kind of loosely tell this story of him trying to survive. The other thing that's going to drive this game are the different Robinson personas that you're going to be able to choose. There's Strategist Dieson, there's Craftsman Dieson, Hunter Dieson, Pathfinder Dieson, and this is going to be another cool way where you get to add a little bit of flavor in the quest that you're doing. You can kind of choose the persona that's best going to kind of help you with the goal that you're trying to reach. Now, there's going to be 2 boards that make up Dieson Crusoe. The left-hand side is kind of the primary place where your actions and different phases of the round are going to be happening. On the right here, we're going to have our island that's going to be broken up into a bunch of different sections. Every section is going to have a different animal that's going to kind of give you a hard time depending on where you are. It can start off as simple as a little bunny rabbit that will take one of your food, all the way up to the wolf that is going to be eating 2 of your health as well as taking some of your food. And if you're enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing for more board game content. We do a lot of reviews and previews and playthrough videos, and I'd love to have you on board. Anyway, back to our island survival. But how are you actually going to be doing anything on this island? And that is where the left side of the board comes in. You see, every round in Dieson Crusoe is going to be broken up into 3 primary phases. There's going to be the morning phase, the afternoon phase, and then the nighttime phase. Now, to start a morning phase, you're going to take 3 of your dice and roll them, and then put them in ascending order. You'll also see on this morning track here, there's this little puck with a couple different spots here. And you're going to move this puck up the amount of spaces as your lowest die. In this case, we move it up 1 spot. Now, these different random effects can either be helpful, like giving you some food or some other resources, or they can be detrimental, where you're going to be losing food, you could be losing some of your shelter, and this represents some of the random events that could be happening on the island that are just totally out of your control. After you do that morning phase and have your die, these dice that you rolled are going to be what drive the actions that you can do in the round. You're going to be moving around this circle and have the chance to do different actions depending on where your meeple moves. This is called a rondel in board game nerd terms, but it is essentially a wheel of actions that you're going to be able to do throughout the round. Taking an action is really simple, where you're just going to take one of the die, put it down here in the next empty nighttime phase spot, and then move your meeple up that many spaces. So if we took the 4 die, we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4 onto spot number 5. Now, once you land on a spot, you could either do the action that you landed on, or you could craft a tool. And tools are going to be the secret sauce to your survival on the island. You can see that every tool has a certain resource that you need to build it, and it's going to give you a persistent effect as the game goes on. Certain quests will require you to build certain items to complete them, but in general, they're just going to be a lot of different ways that are going to help you survive. This ranges from weapons, to traps, to bows, to fishing rods, to the raft that you eventually need to escape. There are a lot of options in the tools, and it gives you a lot of flexibility in how you want to play around, and the tools really let you specialize in doing certain things. If you want to be Hunter Dieson, you could get a whole bunch of weapons and make yourself really, really deadly, or you could be more of the craftsman and buy the blueprint, which kind of helps you make things more efficiently. It adds a little bit of a nice emergent layer of how you build your character based on which of these tools that you want to build. It's a really, really cool concept, and the flexibility of building different things is really, really nice. Now, the last thing that you can do if you don't want to do this action or craft a tool is play with your friend. And now the friend system is very much that Castaway Tom Hanks idea of having an inanimate object to talk to so that you can try to not go crazy on the island. And there's 6 different friends in the game, and they're going to give you different resources. They're going to let you manipulate die values. In general, they're just going to help you survive that much more efficiently on the island. And you're going to choose one at the start of the game. So you could choose the one that, again, you think is going to help you kind of complete this quest that you're on for this specific game. You're going to continue doing this until you spend all of the die to do 3 different actions. And at that point, you're going to move into the nighttime phase. This is when you got to eat some dinner and spend a food or lose a health. And then there's going to be a couple of different nighttime effects that are going to happen that, again, are going to be stresses that you're going to find on the island. The first thing you're going to have to deal with was weather. Depending on which die value is on this spot, you're going to either have sunny weather, rainy weather, or kind of really detrimental weather. And you're going to have to build shelter in order to weather this storm, or you're going to lose health. The last spot here is the wildlife symbol. And you have a 5 or a 6 here, you're going to get raided by the wildlife. The bunny is only going to steal one of your food, which isn't too awful. But some of the more advanced threats, like the bear or the boars or the cannibals, are really going to give you a hard time if they start raiding you. Now, once you resolve all of those nighttime effects, you're going to reset the die. And this is going to bring up one of my absolute favorite things about this game. You see, all of the die that we set up at the very beginning of the game were set at a pip of 1, so no bad weather is going to happen and we're not going to get raided at all. But as you prepare for the next round, you're going to take all of the die that are on the right side, take those off, and slide over all of the dice that you used for actions in the previous round. So while you want some of those high value dies for more potent actions, you also don't want them in specific spots because they're going to cause bad weather or cause raids to happen. And so it's a really interesting decision point where you want these high value dies to do cool stuff, but you also need to account for the bad stuff that they're going to happen at the next round. And it really gives you this interesting anticipation where you know what's coming and you're putting the die there, but sometimes you just got to do it because you need to push forward. The other way this game's going to escalate the kind of tension and difficulty is going to be the time tracker over here. At the end of every round, you're going to slide it to the next day that's going to represent time passing on the island. And some days are going to add values to the animal raid, they're going to add value to the weather die, and in general just make life a whole lot harder. In addition, every quest has a certain finish threshold where you have to complete it in that amount of days or else you fail. Now there is one action that I want to highlight because it is how you're going to interact with the actual map of this game, and that is the explore action. If you're able to land on the explore action, you're able to move your meeple to the next spot. And when you land on the next spot, you might get a resource. And then if you get far enough out, you're going to enter a new threat area. And this is going to be another escalation as you go out and venture. In the beginning, you have the nice little cute bunny, and then the deer. And then it escalates to the boar, the bear, the cannibals, and the wolves. The deeper you go into the island, the more and more dangerous things are going to get. And so you can't just rush out as quickly as you want because you have to be ready to deal with these different threats. When you move one spot in this game, it feels like you are moving a lot. It just really helps with this sense of tension and scale that this game offers. And that is probably my biggest thing that I really, really love about this game. It is the sense of progression and that idea of an emergent narrative. You know, emergent narrative is this idea that as you play a game, it tells a story. The actions that you take inform your future decisions, and you're able to kind of build this narrative as you're playing the game. And I think Dieson Crusoe has that in spades. The really clever use of having an open tool deck. There's a lot of different tools in this deck, and you're never going to build all of them in a single game, but you're able to build what you want to kind of tailor it to a specific situation. Maybe one game I want to go all weapons, and other games I want to go all kind of collect a whole bunch of resources and stockpile a whole bunch of things and build a lot of fences. You're able to have a lot of flexibility, and none of them feel necessarily wrong. Sometimes you have to pivot depending on what die you're getting to make yourself as effective as possible. The other thing that's nice is the persona that you chose that I showed earlier. It really feels like it's informing the way that you're going to play that round, and it's just the right amount of direction without feeling like you're being prescribed an exact way to play. The other thing that adds to that emergent narrative is the threat idea of moving to different areas on the map. I'm only moving one space, but when I'm going from fighting a deer to fighting the bear, it feels like I made this huge step of progress forward on the map. And everything in this game comes together to honestly be one of my favorite solo games of all time, which I don't think I was expecting, kind of unknown game that I was kind of getting into. The dice rondel system is so satisfying. Right, you are relying on the randomness of these dies at the start of a round, but if you have certain resources, you can re-roll dies. You can add values to die. It feels like the game lets you use the resources that you're fighting for to also manipulate the die in a way that help you survive. The entire emergent narrative system of exploring the island, the almost role-playing aspect of choosing these different personalities, the kind of flexibility of building tools and doing things however you want, it's like a sandbox, but you're on this congested, tight island. It's challenging. All you have is this head on a stick to rely on, and it just comes together to be such a fun game. I also really love the way that the quest system is set up, where I can choose to do a really quick 6-round game, or if I want something longer, I could do the full 16 turns and really get into the nitty-gritty of trying to survive on this island. And it never feels like that experience is lessened regardless of which mission that I choose to play. I also love this production. It is subtle and small, it has some wooden dice and wooden cubes, but the touch of the microfiber map where it feels like this is like a piece of cloth I would have found on an island and started scribbling on the doodles of a map, it feels so immersive, and it all just comes together so nicely. Even down to the packaging, where it's in this little novel VHS, it feels like I would have gone to a Blockbuster or something and seen this on the shelf and say, hey, that sounds kind of neat and interesting, I'm gonna check this out. And you bring it home and you fall in love with it. So just overall, this entire package comes together for me just perfectly. From the very homely production to the VHS case, the mechanics, the dice placement, just everything together comes together and sings just perfectly for me. If you're a fan of dice placement, of rondels, of exploration, of emergent narratives, I think you really owe yourself to check out Dieson Crusoe. It is a small production. I don't know how widely available this is going to be outside of the kind of crowdfunding campaign they did, but if you can get your hands on it, I think it's really worth checking out. I think that print and play is still out there and available, so you could always check it out that way as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of Dieson Crusoe. It is a game that just kind of took me by surprise by how much I loved it. Looking at the crowdfunding campaign, it was pretty unassuming and small, but just everything coming together is just so phenomenal. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you have any questions about Dieson Crusoe, be sure to let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. If you guys would like to see a full playthrough of Dieson Crusoe in the future, be sure to let me know in the comments below and I'd be happy to do so. Anyway, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.